Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another The Sports Scoop video. And as you clicked on, we are doing a 2022 NFL mock draft updated version. Our last one we did, I believe I did with Charlie Nidell, other host, but today I'm with another draft analyst, Suraj. Suraj, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Good. Today, mock draft. We just recorded another video, AFC West. We do NFL content as well. So make sure you guys subscribe for more draft content. We'll be coming out with so much stuff. Me and Charlie's NFL draft big board is coming as well. So a ton of content for the drafts coming out. So make sure you guys stay tuned for all of that. Suraj, you are going with the first pick. You have the honors of going number one.
Yep.
Who are you looking to go with here?
At this point, I feel like there's a pretty consensus number one overall pick, given that there are no elite quarterbacks at the moment. I'm going to go with Kayvon Thibodeaux. He really has it all at the moment. He's amazing at pass rush. He hasn't been healthy the entire season, but I think obviously the physical gifts speak for themselves, and I would be surprised if Detroit goes any other way at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we all know how good Kayvon Thibodeaux is. Fantastic pass rusher. I like the pick. I think, maybe not the best. I would think Detroit, you're probably looking quarterback, but at this point in the college season, you're not going for a Malik Willis, a project like that in number one. You're not going for Matt Corral. You're definitely not going Rattler. You're not going Howell. So I think this makes the most sense. And we know it's great to see because, last season it was a very offense heavy draft. And this season it's not. So it is definitely very, very nice to see. But I am number two with the Texans. And I'm going to go and for the first time I've ever done this, I'm going to go for a safety and go Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. This guy is, I would argue, one of the best safeties to ever come out of college. This guy is fantastic. He has length, speed, can play in slot, outside, can play as a, box-to-box linebacker. And I think for the Texans, we're just like the Lions, they're in that similar situation where they just need talent. They need to start bringing in the most talented player. And I think Kyle Hamilton is exactly that. He brings so much versatility to a defense I think could use a guy who, there's a much bigger difference from getting a really good strong safety who can only play strong safety and a really good free safety who can only play free safety. But Kyle Hamilton can kind of do it all. And is just a fantastic player. And that size, we just haven't seen that. Someone to be as mobile as he is at that size is just fantastic. So I think it's going to be Kyle Hamilton here. But, I mean, you never know. If a quarterback rises, maybe they go QB. And we still don't know the situation with Deshaun Watson. But I think Hamilton, maybe Stingley here. But I think, you go get Kyle Hamilton, and that's your guy for the future. And if you're the Jets, if you're like the Jets, you can just trade him later to the Seahawks. But I'm going to go Kyle Hamilton this one. Suraj, you're up next with your New York Jets. Speaking about
I'm kind of annoyed with that last pick. I was kind of going to go for Hamilton there. I like that. But going with number three, I think this is between two people, but I'm going to go with Derek Stingley from LSU. I think he is easily, I think, the best cornerback in a cornerback loaded class this season. And I think what really kind of led me to take him here is that the Jets, even though their secondary has been playing surprisingly well this season, they're not exactly loaded at cornerback. And I think they could use that kind of number one guy like a Derek Stingley. Mm-hmm. He obviously maybe is better in press man coverage, but I think he should be able to eventually suit that Robert Saleh cover three system pretty well. And I think he still will be used in some press alignments. And I think him and Bryce Hall are a great 1-2 tandem for the future for New York. So I think Stingley is the pick here.
Yeah, I would just like to comment, this is the right pick. I think we did it last year with Penei Sewell, but it's just how tempting it is to just go Evan Neal, who's basically a Mekhi Becton, a Mekhi Becton copy. Imagine you had Penei Sewell, you got Penei Sewell, you just moved one of them to guard. You had Vera Tucker, you had offensive line look great, but Evan Neal is very much an injury waiting to happen. And now we have the Jaguars. This is an interesting one. Generally, I'm going Evan Neal. Protect the quarterback, but I'm gonna switch positions and I'm gonna try and bring back that Jacksonville defense and go Aiden Hutchinson, who's actually been going number one.
I like that.
We've seen some mock drafts go number one. This guy physically is really, really talented. I think he has that speed as an edge rusher. I think the problem with him, we haven't seen a lot of talent. I believe he only has 11 starts. I may be completely getting that wrong. I might be getting that wrong with Caloraftis from Purdue, but I believe it is Aiden Hutchinson. Only 11 starts for Michigan, so that obviously experience plays into it. But I think for college, it's not as big of a deal if you can play at that level. When you're no matter where you are, no matter how many games you play, I think 11 is a good sample size. But that's why I think, Aiden Hutchinson, you look at the Jacksonville defense where they've definitely missed on edge rushers past years. Obviously, Josh Allen, he had that very good game against the Bills. And then, Clavon Chason, who we just have not seen. I mean, for the life of me, I don't even know if he starts anymore. That outside guy who they really expected to be a enforcer on that defense. But I think Aiden Hutchinson comes in there really good on 4-3, more of a 4-3 kind of zonal pass rusher type guy. But I think this guy could be fantastic for them. And he kind of has all those traits to be a dominant edge rusher. And you look at the board, there's a ton of good edge rushers. I know Leal is listed as an inside defensive lineman. That guy can play outside as well. So I think, they definitely have a lot of options. I wouldn't be mad with Evan Neal here, but I think Aiden Hutchinson is more value for the selection, if that makes sense. But Suraj, you're up next with the Eagles.
Now I am obviously with the Eagles, and I think this pick, it's tough because the Eagles, I feel like their biggest need at the moment is cornerback, but I think there's a clear best player on the board.
Hutchinson only has 16 career starts.
But I think right now at the moment, there's a clear best player available, at least on the defensive side of the ball, and that is DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M. And like Cian said, he is listed as a interior defensive lineman, but he definitely can play 5 technique, which I feel like is something that the Eagles do need at the moment, especially with Brandon Graham tearing his Achilles. He also is probably the ideal Fletcher Cox replacement at the moment. I think Philadelphia's defense, they're okay. They're not amazing, but I think they're a solid defense. And I think they could use a player that is so talented, like a DeMarvin Leal on that defensive line. He can play in multiple places. He isn't particularly he doesn't particularly have a lot of moves in terms of as a pass rusher, and he definitely could develop in that area. But again, with Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox on the defensive line, he should be able to develop fine. I think this is the best pick at the moment for the Eagles, especially considering they have 2 other picks in the top 15.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. But I think looking at DeMarvin Leal, I think a big problem is when you see offensive linemen make that first contact with him, he does struggle, getting, around them. But one of the most powerful guys, one of the most versatile offensive or defensive linemen I've seen in a long time. This guy can play 3-4 inside, 3-4 edge, 4-3 defensive tackle, 4-3 edge. This guy, he has that size. He has that sneaky size and that sneaky kind of bend to him, and really powerful, fantastic in the run game. So if you have a guy who's versatile and can be good in the run game, you can really line him up wherever. I mean, I think you touch on that great, the Fletcher Cox replacement, who he's been rumored to be traded. I would assume he'll probably be gone by next offseason, and Leal is that new one. And now I have my New York Giants. This is a tough one. Every single year there's a fantastic offensive lineman on the board, and we decide not to get them. I actually don't know if that was true this year. We ended up going for Tony. Which is something. I say that bad now. I love Tony. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but this is a tough one. You look at, there's some great corners on the board. I actually like Ahmad Gardner more than these two. And then there's Evan Neal. So I think I'm just going to go for talent. At this point, I don't really know what the Giants are looking at. I generally do. But Evan Neal, to me, I love Evan Neal. I think, talking about the Mekhi Becton, this guy is just an enforcer on the offensive line. He is so powerful, run game, pass block. This guy is a physical specimen. I believe he's 6'7", 6'6", 300 plus. This guy is ginormous. He's that classic, franchise tackle, which is, I guess a term that we now use in the NFL. The problem to me, and I think very similar to Mekhi Becton, is how long is he going to be on the field for? How long can we keep him? And Andrew Thomas has been fantastic the past year and a half. It comes down to, are we going to risk going for another tackle? And do we need him? Are we going to, let Matt Pert kind of get that job? Are we going to keep Nate Soldier for another year? I hope not. But Evan Neal, to me, it's just, you look at the talent there, and it's very hard to pass up on him. But I would probably assume he'll be gone by 6, but you never know. So then, to me, I'm going to Hutchinson or Leal, whichever one fell. But I think between those 3, those would be my selection. But I think, Evan Neal falls, I'm not mad at all. He's a fantastic tackle and will be that franchise guy. But the question definitely comes down to, how long will he be on the field? And Suraj, you have the Jets continue this rebuild. Hopefully after this draft, they win some games. At 7, what are you looking at? Are you going to imagine you just go Booth or Elam, or you go 2 corners?
Back? Nah, I'm not doing that. I think, though, I'm
actually very interested to what you look at here.
Obviously, at this point, I mean, I'm thrilled. We have 2 top 7 picks. Obviously, that probably won't be at the same way at the end of the season, given that Russell Wilson will be back for the rest of the season. But given that this is the 7th overall pick, I like the position here I'm in. The problem is, I think
this is definitely a trade down scenario.
This is definitely a trade down scenario. But I think at this point, you gotta, obviously there are no trades here. I'm gonna take the second biggest need, and arguably a player that I think is a top 10 prospect at the moment, and that is George Karlaftis from Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, he is another one of those players. He's kind of a bit raw, but I think he's got he's explosive off the edge. He's very talented. And I think the Jets kind of need that type of another 5 technique. Obviously, we did sign Carl Lawson, who did tear his Achilles. I hope he will get back to full strength. We have Bryce Huff and Shaq Lawson on the other edge, and they've been okay. And obviously John Franklin Myers, but he also plays interior defensive line. So I think an edge is a pretty big need. I think this Karlaftis isn't exactly a huge reach. I saw one mock draft for that where he went first overall, which I think is definitely too high.
It's a very, very good edge class.
It's a very good edge class, and I think he is the 3rd ranked edge rusher. But I think, given again the talent of this edge class, I think is actually a fair pick for the New York Jets. Given that, again, I don't see anyone on the board really that we would take that are really better than that is really better than Karlaftis take. Obviously, there are some more corners, but we already feel that need Stingley and maybe a safety. But again, I think it's way too early to reach here. And I think Karlaftis, he's displayed his potential. He's definitely got talent. I think he would definitely be a great piece for Robert Saleh in year 2.
Yeah. And this is an interesting one. I think this is definitely another trade down possibly for the Giants. I would hope an edge would fall. So this could be, I mean, obviously the variations we can go through, there's unlimited, but it comes down to, I would generally be like, we do not need a receiver. We have obviously the amount we brought in last year, but a lot of them are injury prone. I mean, I could possibly see Sterling Shepard getting traded, something like that. It's a tough one. I really want to go Linderbaum as well from Iowa. I just think it's unrealistic. We're not going to go 2 offensive linemen. I mean, you never know, but Linderbaum's fantastic. I'm a big fan of him. I'm going to go for who I believe to be the best receiver in the draft, and that's Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. I think, route running wise, this guy is one of the best. You look at Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy's, he's right up there with them. His ability after the catch as well is fantastic. He leaves a little bit to be desired. He's good at running after the catch, but not very good at breaking tackles, not very good at kind of persevering through tackles and can you trust him one-on-one? Excuse me, one-on-one, when he has the ball, not one-on-one, when he is against a corner. But look, very, very polished route runner. Size is there. I believe he's 6'1". I think Olave is an inch bigger, which is very funny. I always saw Olave as smaller, but Garrett Wilson, I think, you can't go wrong here. Obviously, he's been a cornerstone to this Ohio State offensive production that Fields has had. And I think you plug him into an offense where I'm not sure where he'll play in the NFL. I would project him maybe to be a slot receiver at the next level, but I would probably think they'll put him outside. And then you look at that receiving core for the future, assuming we can keep Golladay. And then you have 4-5 guys right there. Obviously, and with Tony in the slot, I think this receiving room could be fantastic. Who knows? Maybe we're looking at a quarterback here. I hope not. But I think this is a tough one. I think this is definitely one that I would love to see your guys' comments down below what you think. But I'm going to go for Wilson here. Now, Suraj, here's where I think the first quarterback should go. It is up to you at this point. What do you think, Washington? What do you think the move will be here?
See, I think Washington would take a quarterback here. That being said, I will not have them take a quarterback for this reason. I think there are a lot of quarterbacks in this draft that all have very similar skill levels. It's not like there's a Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson in this draft where they're just like a touch above all the other quarterbacks in terms of just talent wise. I think you could get a solid quarterback in maybe the early second. I don't think 6 quarterbacks will go in the first round. So I'm actually going to address another position of need, which I feel like right now is cornerback, given that they have had, I think they have one of the best defensive lines in football. Obviously, Chase Young had that torn ACL, but he is overall Washington still have one of the best defensive lines in football. But they've given up I think the 31st most passing touchdowns in the NFL this season, which is just not good enough. I think they could use a cornerback given the talent at cornerback this draft season. I think they have to go for one. I'm going to go with Andrew Booth from Clemson. I think he displays versatility in both man and zone. He can even play in the slot. He's a very good coverage corner. I think he would probably play outside cornerback next to William Jackson. I think this would be a solid pick for Washington. And I can't see, because the problem is, I think, again, quarterback, it wouldn't be a bad pick for Washington. But I think overall, there are so many quarterbacks I feel like can fill a similar skill set for the football team that I think why not fill another position of need that has a lot more talent than whatever quarterback you're going to go for, whether it's a Matt Corral or a Malik Willis. So that's why I have Booth going here at number 9.
I'm going to anger a lot of people. Serge, I think you might have just saw where I just put my position value at. I am going to give the Dolphins Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. And I know this is a huge reach. And I do this, if you guys don't know me, I do this every single mock draft where I take a player and instantly regret it as I take it. This is very, very, very high for running back like Kenneth Walker. I think by the end of the season, this guy will be a first-round pick. I think he'll be a Najee Harris-like value guy. I mean, this guy is one of the front runners to win Heisman right now. So I think taking him at 10, while, obviously it's too much in the Dolphins, I think offensive line will probably be the smarter option. You put Kenneth Walker into a Dolphins offense where we've classically not seen a very good ground and pound running back. And we know this guy, when he gets a hole, this guy is breaking speed. We saw, obviously, it displayed against Michigan, that fantastic game. And he's the kind of upside guy who can give you 3-4 touchdowns a game. And Suraj, I know you're probably not a big fan of it, but I know you love Kenneth Walker. Obviously not this high.
I saw him.
Yeah.
I saw him in the Michigan game. He looked pretty good. I think the problem is running backs do tend to go off the board very late.
Yeah.
And maybe you could find him a bit within one of your other picks. Yeah. But that being said, I don't think it's a terrible pick for Miami. And I think they definitely need a running back.
And I'm gonna preface that I'm gonna assume that the Dolphins will be a little bit lower. They beat the Ravens, so that's basically what I'm basing that off of. But I'm gonna go Kenneth Walker. You guys know, if you guys know the channel, I like really good ground and pound running backs, and I think it addresses the Dolphins' needs the most. I would say offensively, they have receiver as a need. I don't think it is one. And it's a tough one. I think this one, I think Drake London would be a great pick. But I'm gonna go Kenneth Walker here, and I know the comments are coming in. I know they are, but there's nothing like a mock draft without comments. But Suraj, you're back with the Eagles' second first round pick.
Only the second. Yeah. And now I think it is the time to address cornerbacks, and you still have a couple of really good ones on the board. I'm going to go this Cian's corner, Ahmad Gardner from Cincinnati. There you go. He can play both press and zone coverage. I think Philadelphia, when you look at their depth chart, they are just kind of wide open in terms of cornerback help. They need that kind of number one guy, and I think that's what Ahmad Gardner really provides them. I'm not sure out of the gate. You can probably ask Cian about that, but I think at this point in time, he is, I would say, a bit more pro-ready than Kier Alam.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, I think Philadelphia needs to take a guy like Ahmad Gardner, who has been one of the best cornerbacks in college football this season.
Yeah, I think definitely the production of Darius Slay this season will kind of maybe push you a little bit away from a corner, but I still think it's a big issue. And I think when you have 3 first-round picks, you can take one that you like instead of going for one of value. Kyer Elam to me is physically, I believe they're both 6'2". They're both very physically gifted corners. I think I like Ahmad Gardner's backpedaling a little bit more, and he's not as grabby. Elam to me is a little bit grabby. He's a little bit like CJ Henderson actually coming out of Florida, but a little bit too grabby. For my liking, I still think it would be a fine pick. But Ahmad Gardner, to me, what stands out to me is he's just aggressive and doesn't get a lot of penalties. He's kind of that, Jalen Ramsey. I'm not comparing him to him, but that Jalen Ramsey, like where he can be very aggressive and definitely get up in your face and press very close and not get a ton of penalties. So that's why I like Ahmad Gardner a little bit more. I think if you go Elam, you can't go wrong here. And now I am up with the Falcons again, and a lot of needs here. I'm actually going to pair Grady Jarrett up finally with his someone where he maybe can get some more recognition, and that's Jordan Davis out of Georgia. Look, pass rush, fantastic. Leaves a little bit to be desired in the run blocking, which I guess you would probably like to see a little bit more from a guy of his size, and especially from a defensive tackle. You generally want them to be, I guess you generally don't want them to be run stuffers, but you would like them to have that trait. And it's not that he can't be, it's just, it could be worked on. I think having Grady Jarrett, he can definitely be that run stuffer a little bit more. But Jordan Davis, to me, I think it's a good pick. I think value pick wise, this is where I think the Falcons will look at. They look at those, they like defensive linemen. I think that's where they'll look here. From Jordan Davis out of Iowa. But Suraj, you're up now with the Vikings.
Yep, I'm going to go with the Vikings, and for the third time in a row, I'm going to have a team take a cornerback. This time, the last kind of the top 4, I would say.
Yeah,
Kier Alam,
I like it,
from Florida, and I think this is kind of just a necessary pick for the Minnesota Vikings at this point. Like the Brashad Breeland experiment has not worked. Mackenzie Alexander has been
Patrick Peterson.
So. I mean, Patrick Peterson, I guess, but like he's
been bad. Aging. He hasn't been good.
You just can't rely on him. And I think Alam, he is probably the last top of the top corners in this draft class. And I think him being here at 13 is a very good value pick and obviously very good in terms of positional need. I think that's what makes most sense for Minnesota at this point.
Yeah, I you said it all. I completely agree. I think corner is a position of need. And Elam, if you can touch him up, is very good. I asked you to go quarterback first, and you didn't. So I'm gonna go first and give the Broncos Matt Corral out of Ole Miss. Please take Malik Willis off the draft board. Not Malik Willis, excuse me, Sam Howell. I do not like him. But Corral, to me, if you guys have watched college football, he's been one of those names out there. I think he would be a contender for Heisman. I think since he's on Ole Miss, he probably isn't as much. But look, for his size, he reminds me very much of Kyler Murray, what he's able to do with that size. Obviously, I don't even know if he's 6 feet, but very mobile quarterback, someone when, he's a polished thrower, but then it kind of goes to like, what are you throwing towards at certain points? But this guy can deliver the ball anywhere downfield. And I think it's just a Broncos team that the quarterback is holding them back. Unfortunately, Teddy Bridgewater is not your franchise guy. He's not that guy for the future. You bring in Corral, and I think would be smart is let him sit for a year behind Bridgewater, and then you bring in Corral. But I think Matt Corral fits this offense very well. You bring him in, and he already has a lot of weapons, obviously, with the receivers, and he's able to grow with them. I think that's a big deal. It's not like he's playing with older receivers. He's going to get to grow with Judy, grow with KJ Hamler. Sutton, I believe, is not too old. I don't think he's probably 25, 26. So I think Matt Corral fits that very well. And I think, at this point, there's not too much. I would say you could go receiver, you could go offensive line, but right now there's not a dire need. And I think that defense is good enough. We know that secondary is good. So I think Corral makes the most sense. Suraj, do you have anything to say about that, or you want to move on?
No, I think actually I would have taken a quarterback here as well. Yeah. I think Denver is kind of the first team that I feel like, yeah, you got to take a quarterback at this point. I think Corral, this is where I feel like he deserves to go. I think he is the quarterback one in this class. And I think Denver are a team that really need a quarterback. He can sit maybe a year behind either Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. And yeah, I think Denver definitely need a quarterback to kind of maximize the amount of talent they have at the skill positions. And I think Corral's the option here. Mm-hmm. But now going on to the third pick in the first 15 picks, the Philadelphia Eagles are back on.
Why is quarterback a need? It angers me. It's not a need.
It's not a need. Jalen Hurts has been pretty solid. And that being said, I'm going to take Sam Howell. But being for real, I think I'm going to go with interior offensive lineman. I'm going to go with Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. I think. So, yeah, right. I do have Kenyon Green going 15 to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think at this point, I can't really tell what Philadelphia really should go for. I know they've picked the kind of like hybrid interior defensive lineman /5 technique in DeMarvin Leal, and then you got your corner in Ahmad Gardner. And now maybe you go for some interior offensive lineman help, given that their offensive line is kind of aging a bit with obviously with Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson. So I think they could maybe do with an offensive lineman here. I think Kenyon Green is the best pick here. And I'm going to go interior offensive lineman.
I like it. All right, Browns. We move on. The Browns the Browns that are wishing they had a little bit more. I think there's a lot of options to go for the Cleveland Browns in this one. I'm actually going to get straight to it. I'm going to actually go for Drake London out of USC here. I like Olave, and I think you look at the talent, and he might have a little bit more of versatility and a little bit more weapons. But I think if you can get Baker Mayfield, a big receiver like Drake London, to kind of, for the time being, complement Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Schwartz, who they brought in last year. I think London and not that, I think London could be the best receiver in this draft class. I would say it's a pretty open wide receiving. I think, you probably have one of the Ohio State guys as your number one, but I think Drake London is right behind there as at 3, maybe I'd say he's at least in the top 5. And so I think, Drake London goes into a school, and you look at what really, he's the classic big guy, 6'5". He's just a bully. You can compare him to Mike Pittman, obviously another USC receiver who's had a ton of success as of recent. He's really, really good. You can run him as that inside slant when you're in the red zone. That's something he got a lot of success with. I believe he's actually injured, so this might hurt his stock a little bit. But I think Drake London's the pick here. I don't necessarily love it. I think it's receiver, but my preference would be London, but I think you could go either way. But Suraj, you're on with their division rivals, the Bengals.
Yeah, I think the Bengals, they've really done a great job kind of remaking this offensive line. But I think one position that is still of need is center, given that Trey Hopkins really hasn't been great for them this season. I think lucky for them, they have a great center waiting for them with Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa.
Love it. Yeah, he fell a lot.
He is fallen. I think he is kind of definitely, I think maybe it's because of center. Maybe no one wanted to go too early for center. I think Cincinnati is kind of a match made in heaven. I think he's kind of that main piece for Cincinnati. I think they needed kind of that guy who can almost be a second quarterback like Joe Burrow. And I think he will be that kind of piece for Cincinnati. He'll kind of hold this offensive line together. They're hoping he will be here for hopefully the next 10 seasons to kind of protect Joe Burrow. And I think he's easily the best center in this class. And I think he's pretty good in pass blocking. He's solid in run blocking. I think he's at the moment is the perfect fit really for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I love that pick. I don't got much. I think this guy, you look at him in the second level, one of the fastest centers I've ever seen. Really, really good at blocking the second level. That's good for Mixon, good for Burrow. But now we move on to the Raiders, who are an interesting drafting team. But I'm actually going to finally go and take Olave off. They're going to take Olave off the hands of all other NFL teams. Olave, just like his peer, Garrett Wilson, very good route runner, someone who we saw in that the upset game where Fields beat Clemson. This guy was the reason why, ridiculously good deep downfield. And obviously, I don't think Deshaun Jackson, or I would hope Deshaun Jackson isn't a long-term option for them. And I think Olave is kind of that, that second guy, but still good in the, mid to short, shallow routes. But I think his bread and butter is those deep gashing routes down the field. And I think, unfortunately, the one who you drafted, Henry Ruggs, is not there anymore. So hopefully you're recouping that and going for Olave. Because when you have Tyreek Hill in your division, you want to have a guy you want to have your own Tyreek Hill. Well, Olave's probably not as fast. I think he has that ability to be a very, very lethal deep threat. And now, Suraj, you are with the Panthers. Your Sam Darnold-led Panthers, Cam Newton or PJ Walker. Which one?
Yeah, I don't. Sadly, I think the Cam Newton thing was all wholesome, and I think I like him being back in Carolina. That being said, I don't think him or any of the other two options are really the permanent option in Carolina. I think they got to start thinking about a quarterback, and I think.
Oh my God, no way!
I think they got to go with a quarterback. I think they've got most of their other positions really filled out the year.
So lock it in, Malik Willis. You're handing in the ballot.
I'm going Malik Willis.
The call was made. Wow.
I think you let him sit for Cam Newton under a year. I think that'd be great for Malik Willis, given that I don't think he is really pro ready yet this season, but he can kind of learn that Joe Brady kind of spread offense, RPOs, which he's been pretty good at Liberty anyways. And I think with a lot of weapons like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and I expect Terrace Marshall to get better as time goes on. I think it's a great situation for him to step into in Carolina. I think this would be kind of a great piece for Carolina in the future, knowing that they've got a pretty young core, but they can't waste it with an average quarterback like, I hate to say it, Sam Darnold. So I think Malik Willis makes the most sense here. He's the second quarterback off the board. And in terms of just pure arm talent, I think he makes sense here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I completely agree. Now we move on to the chart. I think Malik Willis, like you said, raw quarterback sitting behind definitely is what he's going to need to have. I think no matter what team he goes to, sitting behind a guy is going to be it. And now we move on to the Chargers. We look at their needs: edge, tight ends in need, and then inside defensive line. There's not much here. So I guess you could see maybe a trade down situation. But I'm going to go – this is a tough one. I'm going to go and bolster the offensive line and go Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, another really, really big tackle, good in zonal blocking. I think that fits the Chargers, very well. So I think that's my pick here. I don't have much to say here. When you get down lower to the offensive line, there's not much to say. I think Charles Cross is a very polished guy, someone who can go in and start. And for Herbert, this is definitely a boring pick. Maybe you excite everyone to go Treylon Burks or you go Jahan Dotson. But I think looking at needs, it's an offensive line that could always be upgraded. And obviously you got Lindsey last offseason. So, make that offensive line complete and go get your future tackle in Charles Cross. But you're up next, Suraj, with the Titans.
Yep, and Saints. But speaking of Treylon Burks, I think he's got to be the pick here for New Orleans. I think quarterback is potentially an option, given that Jameis Winston will be out of contract next offseason. That being said, they can get one in the second round. They need a wide receiver. We don't know really what the future is with Michael Thomas. They really haven't even got a receiver number 2 for him, even when they wanted to get one. And I think Treylon Burks kind of is that perfect option, that kind of future option. I think he's kind of that big body receiver. He's very, very maturely built. He can kind of play in the slot, but he can also play on the perimeter. And I think he's a very solid option here. He's good value at 21. I think New Orleans kind of, again, need that kind of big body guy. They don't really have that here. Maybe in Deontay Harris, but he definitely isn't as good talent-wise as Treylon Burks. And I think he makes the most sense here.
Yeah, I love this pick. Treylon Burks, someone I love a lot, and definitely a guy who's very good in contested situations. I think we don't know, like you said, the situation with Michael Thomas is definitely up in the air. So I think getting Treylon Burks makes a ton of sense. I think they may have taken what the Patriots wanted at receiver. So I'm going to give them Jahan Dotson out of Penn State, another kind of big body receiver. We look at his profile here. Or excuse me, not big body, 5'11", complete opposite. I don't know why. A lot of receivers, I see them as bigger and they're not. But Jahan Dotson, I think, fits this offense very well. More of a, I wouldn't say conservative throwing offense, but you don't see them throwing a lot of deep passes, especially with Mac Jones. And I think he fits that a little bit more. Again, a deeper threat for them. But I would say Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson, but I could, again, see them maybe even going, safety or reaching for Trent McDuffie out of Washington to shore up that cornerback role. But it's a defense that's been playing, very well. So I think, this is definitely pick. They could trade down, trade up. But I like the Jahan Dotson. Maybe they even go Devin Lloyd out of Utah. But I think Jahan Dotson is definitely a safer pick in this one. But Suraj, you're now up with the video we just did. I'll make sure you guys go check that out. The AFC West video we did. The Chiefs.
With Kansas City.
Mahomes done.
Yep, he is obviously finished after that last performance. But I think right here they've kind of fixed the offensive line. I think the offensive line is fine at the moment. I think the receivers, you could go for another receiver here, but I don't see really Kansas City reaching for someone. And I think they need to kind of address the defensive side of the ball. So I think they're going to take the first linebacker off the board in Devin Lloyd from Utah.
Okay.
Not really sure much to say here. I think Kansas City are in desperate need of a linebacker. Nick Bolton, he's not been amazing.
Good. Nick Bolton's been good.
He's been solid.
Obviously
but
not,
I think
the recognition
overall,
that.
Yeah, but I think Hitchens isn't like a long-term option. They definitely need another like good interior, like a Mike linebacker. And I think that's what really Devin Lloyd offers for Kansas City. I think this is kind of his value. There aren't that many it's not a top heavy linebacker class, but I think Kansas City definitely could use one. They could have gone edge, maybe Mijay Sanders, but I think linebacker is a crucial need for Kansas City, so I'm going to go with that pick there.
That pick there, that was a good description. Now we have the Bucks, who are actually at 24th. I don't know how the Steelers are behind them. Not sure.
Yep. Please explain.
Who projected this? Come on. What the heck?
What the heck are you doing?
This is again, as it gets lower and lower, it gets much, there's not as much to kind of talk about. They need inside offensive line, but I'm not sure if that's the pick. I'm actually gonna go for a safety and go Jaquan Brisker out of a Penn State. I think hard-hitting guy. Again, looking at his profile, I don't think he's above. I'm not sure how big he's 6'1". So again, bigger guy. I mean, it's so funny. The receivers are getting smaller and the corners are getting bigger. So there you have it. Not corners, secondaries are getting bigger, but Jaquan Brisker kind of that perfect size for a safety 6'1", still gives you kind of space to be versatile. And I think for a Bucs team that you look at that secondary, it's still very good. It hasn't been the best this year. It hasn't been bad, but I think you pair him up with Antoine Winfield and it forms a very, very good, duo for the future. But 2 safeties in the first round, never thought we would see it, but it's happening. And Suraj, you're up next
with the Steelers. And I think at the moment they got to take a quarterback because they just can't go with Potato Ben. I think he will retire at the end of the season. They can't go with Mason Rudolph either. The problem is which quarterback they take, because I think it's between 4 guys at this point: Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Carson Strong, and Kenny Pickett. It's just really tough. So I'm still not even decided on this.
I think they lost a big chance in not taking not Liberty. I was calling Liberty. Excuse me, Willis and or Corral.
Yeah. So it's kind of that bit of that second tier here. I'm going to go. You know what? I'm going to go with the shocker. I'm going to go with Kenny Pickett.
I like Pittsburgh. It. And a lot of people like him.
I do like him. I think, obviously, it's not just because of the production. I think he also suits kind of what Pittsburgh want to do. They're going to play a bit of spread offense, but they're also going to use some West Coast principles. it's going to be hard for him to step in there and be the quarterback right away, which he's probably going to have to, unless Pittsburgh maybe signs some veteran quarterback. But I think he's going to have a huge blanket with receivers like Juju Schuster, Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson, and a great running back like Najee Harris. And it's obviously a tough situation to step into, but I think he's the best option out of Howard there and Strong. I think Pickett, he's had amazing production. It's gonna be tough for him to complete this at the next level, but I think it could work out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Pickett, he's definitely I mean, this guy could arguably be the best quarterback in the class. I think you can kind of look at it either way, but now we have the Ravens. They're not going to go quarterback. I can tell you that. This is definitely another questionable one. I think offensive line wise, they don't need much, and edge is one. So I'm going to go with Majai Sanders out of Cincinnati. A very finesse rusher. I think, again, we're looking at his size, 6'5". So, excuse me. Sorry. Not sure. Wait, can you still see the screen?
Yeah, I can still see the screen.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think some email thing just came up. I apologize. Okay. I am back. I apologize for that. So Majai Sanders, obviously at 6'5". So he is very big. That is big for a edge rusher. So again, versatile inside, outside. And I think you look at maybe a Calais Campbell replacement. We know how big he is. And I think it's definitely a Ravens defensive line that's slowed down since losing Judon. And I think Majai Sanders adds that youth and that finesse and that spark that they need. So I'm going to go for him. I think Drake Jackson would be a very good pick here. He's fallen a lot as well, but it's a really, really good edge class. So they have a lot of options here, maybe trade down. But I think that would be my pick for the Raiders. I don't know. I don't know names. Excuse me. The Ravens. There are.
Yeah. And now you go back to the Detroit Lions. Do they go for a quarterback? Make it the fourth off the board? Yep. The fourth off the board.
Do they, Suraj? That's a good question. It's in your hands.
I am actually, yes, I'm going to go with another quarterback. I'm going to go with Carson Strong from Nevada. Okay. I was considering Sam Howell, but I think the reason why is that I think he's a bit more like pro ready. I think he could probably, I think Carson Strong is the kind of guy where maybe let him sit behind Jared Goff for a year, even though he isn't that good. So maybe another bad season for the Lions. So I think Strong is probably kind of the guy for the future. Maybe let him sit for a year. They could also maybe pass on this year's quarterback class and maybe wait for 2023, but I think Strong is kind of that guy who could be maybe he could be the future, could not be. Maybe see how he progresses in a year, and then you can see where you are, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. Assess the situation, exactly.
Yeah. And now we have the Cowboys, the high-flying Cowboys, might I say. They're very much on top of that horse. I'm going to go for Drake Jackson out of USC here. I think someone who's fallen a lot. I definitely think this guy's a first-round pick. Not sure why they don't have him as one, but definitely for USC, he's been very good, very productive. And I think you look at a Cowboys defensive line that obviously Lawrence is out. But Randy Gregory's been really good. And I think they're missing that one more piece on a defense that right now is definitely on the up. They're one of the best defenses in the league right now. Turnovers and defensively, they've been able to get to the quarterback. But I think Drake Jackson will kind of push that. Definitely more of a 4-3 edge. I'm not sure what his versatility is to play in a 3-4, but the Cowboys play 4-3 regardless. So I don't think it'll be much of a problem for him, but I think he improves a front seven. That is, I would say, a step or two away. And I think it's a good value selection. Having him at 33, I definitely think he's a first round pick. But this is what I got for them. Now, Suraj, you're up with your division rivals, the Bills.
Yeah, I think with Buffalo at the moment, their biggest need is on the offensive line. I think one of the guys that kind of has fallen a bit, I think is a good value pick for the Bills is Ekwonu. I'm sorry if I mispronounced
the names get
that.
harder and harder.
Exactly. And I think he presents some versatility. He can play. He's listed as an interior offensive lineman, can also play left tackle. He can kind of fit that Bills spread passing offense. They obviously like to use often 3, sometimes even 4 receivers split out wide. And I think he kind of fits that system. I think obviously the Bills, they're a pretty complete team other than offensive line. And I think Ekwonu is probably the most complete, the best one on the board yet. I think this is kind of just a make sense pick, that like kind
of.
The
Bills are generally just a make sense pick. Yeah, I like it. I like the pick, Surge. On to our next one, we have the Cardinals, and man, oh man, am I excited! I'm gonna give Byron Murphy his cornerback friend. I'm not sure Trent McDuffie out of Washington. We know Byron Murphy went to Washington, and they go get Trent McDuffie. Definitely someone who's fallen a little bit. I can already tell you this guy's probably going to be one of my favorite corners in the class. I think he provides a very good 1-2 punch with Byron Murphy. You kind of see, I would say probably more, they definitely mix zone, Kingsbury mix zone and man, but I would say it's probably more of a zone coverage defense. I think McDuffie fits that, can play man. I mean, all the corners in this class, corners get more versatile. At this point, if you're a corner, you kind of need to be able to play man and zone at simultaneously. So I think McDuffie definitely fits that. And that the pairing with Byron Murphy was too good to pass up on. But Serge, now you have the Titans at 31, projected to be in the Super Bowl right now.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting pick here. Tennessee, they've looked much better on defense as the season has progressed. Their offense is pretty good as well. I think this is a pretty difficult pick because they've kind of quietly got a pretty good team all around. Maybe another defensive lineman. Obviously, their edge rushers, they got Bud Dupree and Harold Landry, who's had a very good season. Or maybe, which I'm going to go with linebacker Nakobe Dean from Georgia, one of those amazing members of that Georgia defense that's just been absolutely fantastic this season. I think Vrabel, he's a linebacker himself. He kind of wants that linebacker that can kind of command the middle of the field and be that kind of leader of the defense. And they don't really have that, even though they have improved on the defensive side of the ball. And I think Nakobe Dean really provides that for Tennessee. And I think, they're kind of getting a bit more complete on the defensive side of the ball, but I think linebacker, their front seven is definitely not complete. I think linebacker is a key need, and they will have the second linebacker go off the board with Nakobe Dean.
I like it. All right, moving on to the last pick, and we have the Packers. We kind of look at the needs, and this is always a very boring pick, and I'm not going to change that. I think it'll be another boring pick. And I'm going to go offensive line, and I'm actually going to go Darian Kennard. He's listed as an inside offensive lineman. I'm pretty sure he is a tackle, if I'm not wrong. I'm really, really big fan of him. One of my guys is in my top 25. So I think this is a steal here out of Kentucky. A very big guy. I believe he was an All-American, if I'm not wrong. But really, he's the main guy on that Kentucky offense. Out of the receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, he is that guy. That guy who's really focused on when you look at them on TV, when you watch Kentucky. And I think he again proves backup versatility on a line that we saw last year. They had so many variations, especially this year, of that offensive line because of injuries. And it's definitely a more aging one. So I think Kennard again goes in there. A boring pick, but generally offensive lines finish up our draft. But that's what I got. Suraj, any last notes? That was the mock. What do you?
Yep, I thought it's my first mock draft. I'm obviously not exactly fully knowledgeable on this yet, but I think right now I'm looking at what the Jets have done. They're my favorite team. I think I like what we've done. We've kind of addressed our biggest needs. We've addressed cornerback. We've addressed edge. Maybe we can get a safety in the second round. But I think Karlaftis and Stingley could be huge pieces to this defense in the future. And I think overall, the draft played out pretty well. And obviously, the Eagles are in a great position with 3 first-round picks in the first 15. I think they addressed their biggest needs in cornerback, especially. And that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I agree. Hope you guys did enjoy. As always, do make sure to like, subscribe. And if it got a little bit messy at the end, we do apologize. I hope to God that it showed the board in the beginning. I actually paused my screen, so I'm not sure what it'll look like. If it's just us talking, I guess it's fine. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Cian McDermott, Suraj, calling more draft content to come. Mock drafts are one of our favorite things to do, and when we get more knowledgeable about them, we like to talk more about them. We're constantly doing research on it. So if we were a little bit rusty, we apologize. We know more about top 15 once we get a little bit below. It definitely gets a little bit more questionable. But Cian McDermott, Suraj Kadali, the Sports Scoop. Go follow us on social media. All of the links are down below. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.